screen as full as it gets. Okay, so the class is being recorded. Good afternoon, everyone. And this is me again, Dr. Sameh. And we're doing A230B. And we're doing the Dubliners. We started the Dubliners last time. And we had to stop because I wouldn't say all of you didn't have the time to read the short stories. We stopped so that you could read them, but obviously because you were also very busy with the TMA and the MTA, you couldn't do that. So it's the Dubliners, everyone, and we spoke about the Dubliners last time. We started furnishing the background, and we said that the Dubliners would mark the start of 20th century literature, and it would also mark the shift from mainstream English literature to regional literature, if you like, world literature, continental literature, because the Dubliners was written by James Joyce, and James Joyce is an Irish writer. So we're moving from England to Ireland. We're moving from mainstream Victorian literature, novel, to continental literature, to Irish literature. And the reason why we're stressing the fact that we have this movement on this shift would be the fact that the experience is going to be different. The concerns and the ideas are going to also be different. So we're progressing in terms of time. And as we proceed with time, you have new things, you have innovation, you have experimentation, and this is typical of the 20th century and even the 21st century. So with Joyce, we have a great shift from whatever is conventional and whatever is traditional to whatever is experimental and whatever is modernist. We're going to make a distinction between modernity and whatever is modernist. So that there is obviously a difference between modern and modernist. When I say modernist, I'm focusing on techniques. I'm focusing on the aesthetic aspects of literature and culture. So again, James Joyce happens to be one of the most important experimental novelists and writers, and with him we will hear new notions and new ideas and new concepts. And the novel of psychology, the stream of consciousness, the focus on the character rather than on the plot, the novel of ideas, where ideas matter more than a sequence of events and plot making and all these kinds of things. So if you're into experimentation, you would love the short stories and how they are presented. Typical of modernist novels and short stories, you wouldn't expect this traditional plot where you normally have a beginning and a middle, and we don't have that anymore because the focus is on the character, on what goes on inside the character. So plot doesn't matter much for people like James Joyce. With James Joyce, the focus is normally on the individual and also on the city. The city themes and topics are all over the place when we talk about modernist and 20th century novels. They can even act as characters in their own right, as we are going to see and discover. Like I said, the Dubliners the title is very significant and very suggestive of what the collection of short stories is about. The collection of short stories uh, um, is about Dublin, and Dublin happens to be the capital of Ireland. Dublin, so this is the capital of Ireland, and you have the ER or ERS kind of thing, Dubliners, which means we're talking about the inhabitants of Dublin at this given moment in history. We're talking about the early 20th century, where um, people were not totally um, away from conflicts, whether those conflicts are religious, political, or any otherwise. You still have um, the dominance of traditional beliefs and traditional ideas, religious beliefs and religious ideas. You still have this kind of life that is more into the past than into the future. People, it seems that Dublin, when you look at Dublin, you look at a city, and a city, whenever you look at cities, the perspective is futuristic. You talk about the future because the city is like a present and a future invention. But the ideas and the orthodoxies of those who live in the city would drag it to the past. And this is, like I said, happening in Dublin, where at its face value, this is a city, but deep down, it is more of a big village. And of course, you know the associations of villages where you have people, living close together. There is this element of intimacy. People know each other by the name. They I mean, they know each other very, very well. But still, you have the city aspect with its focus on the idea of alienation, on the idea of strangeness, the big ideas that are over the head of simple people, simple Dubliners. We'll talk about all of that through the stories that we have. Again, one of the ideas that you're going to see or feel or observe floating would be the idea of the flâneur. Flâneur is more or less like a city dweller who lives on the margins of the city, somebody who doesn't have a specific job. He is always on the move. And while moving aimlessly around, he also observes sets of behavior. He perhaps thinks about them, comments on them. He gives us aspects that we wouldn't otherwise be able to have access to. Again, it's the city, and the city here is the city of Dublin, and it's Dubliners and the people who live in Dublin. I'm not going to repeat what I said about James Joyce himself being a native of Ireland who left Ireland very early, but Ireland never left him in the sense that he was always obsessed with Ireland and what happens in Ireland, in spite of the fact that he lived on the continent for a substantial part of his life. So let's go to the slides and see all these concerns reflected in the short story. Excuse me, the short stories that we have. To keep in mind that we're highly selective when it comes to the short stories. We're not doing all of them because obviously we don't have this luxury in terms of time. Mhm. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. Like I said, we have already started the Dubliners. We spoke about James Joyce himself and stuff. So we're going to go straight to the short stories that we have featured today. We have the sisters, and we have an encounter, and hopefully we will have time to do a video. So these are three short stories that we will have today. Next time we will be doing clay and perhaps some other story, and then the big one would be in the dead. We'll have a whole class on the dead. So Dubliners is the only collection of short stories by Joyce. So he only wrote, otherwise he wrote novels. Most of his legacy is novel writing, whether we're talking about the portrait of the artist as a young man or Ulysses. He only, like I said, he only wrote this collection of short stories, and he gave them or gave it the title Dubliners. Again, this is very significant. We talk about the history of short story and the history of fiction in general. Again, he has this patriotic mission. He took it upon himself to introduce Dublin to the world. Again, Dublin went through a number of stages where at one point it was, at its best, very famous and very, kind of clean and organized. But over time, it started to lose luster and to lose prestige and importance. And this is all because of the English, of course. And you need to always remember that the Irish were under British occupation for hundreds of years. And of course, occupiers have their own agendas. They never stop obliterating the identities of the countries they occupy. Again, on the surface, when you look at those different short stories, you would feel that we have this straightforward narrative. Of course, this narrative is not a traditional kind of narrative where you have beginnings and middles and ends, like I said. You have brief moments in the lives of those urban individuals. But when you go deeper than that, you would find that even the style and the twists and the stylistic twists and devices are helping they inform the ideas and the messages that James Joyce is trying to get across to us. Again, when you read the stories in their totality, you will find that we're moving between radicalism and conservatism. These are two main issues that we're going to find all the time in constant disagreement or conflict. You have the Irish society as being highly conservative or ultra conservative. Conservative means that they are very traditional, that they don't welcome innovation and change easily. They are so set in their old ways, and those old ways can be cultural ways of as how to do something, can be also religious. Religion means a lot to conservative people. So this is conservatism, and on the other hand, you would have radicalism. Radical, um, if somebody is radical, he wants change, and he wants this change to be drastic and to be total and immediate. So obviously, the individuals in the Irish society are tossed uh, uh, um, between those two strands, two extremes, radicalism or conservatism. And that would explain why the characters are not, are not strong enough, because, like I said, they are torn apart between those two extremes, either radicalism or conservatism. Um, Again, when we talk about radicalism, we'll have to kind of tie it to the idea of nationalism, the fact that the Irish are, kind of pondering and thinking deeply about the idea of independence. They want to become independent of and from the British Empire. And in order to do that, people have to agree, because over time people wouldn't welcome bloodshed. So you have to convince people that revolution is in their best interest. So this is radical. People are by nature conservative. If you tell them that we need to have independence from England, they would ask you how. And if you tell them that it would take, blood, and it would take, kind of, starting a revolution, they would say no. They would think twice about it. So people, like I said, are, kind of um, um, unable to adapt with those new dynamics. Independence they want, but independence has to come at a price. And there are examples of violent resistance and violent reactions to the British Empire and the British occupiers. And that can cost, of course, resources and lives. Again, that aspect of colonization, the fact that Ireland is colonized and is under British occupation, has kind of presence in the short stories, of course, and in the entire work, whether we're talking about James Joyce or the other con contemporary writers like W.B. Yeats and Lady Gregory and Singh and other people. Again, when we talk about Dublin, we also need to talk about how they could kind of silently resist the British Empire and the British occupiers, and they started to do that by reviving interest in their local language, their native language they have and culture. It's called Gaelic. Started to kind of restore interest and restore the use of Irish language and literature and songs and all these kinds of things. Again, that would add to this idea of liberation and all these kinds of things. You might not feel it very deeply in the short stories because the short stories focus more on the social and the religious aspects. It is as if James Joyce is trying to say that he's trying to make a statement. You cannot be political, you cannot ask for independence and work for independence unless you resolve the the religious and the social problems that you have, and there are so many. Again, the idea of illiteracy, the idea of too much religion. Remember that they are they are Catholic, and Catholics by nature and by definition are very devout practitioners of their religion. So again, according to James Joyce, you cannot really start working on the political side of things unless and until you have done something about the problem, the social and the religious problems that the society is suffering under. Again, those short stories and others are going to have those tensions between the old and the new, the past and the present. And with the past, you're talking about what we call backward-looking conservatism. This is conservatism, while when we talk about radicalism, we talk about a more forward-looking perspective that is political and social. Again, the individual, the Dubliner, is tossed between those different extremes. We have, of course, examples of those tensions and how they played out in different events and different instances, like the Playboy riots and everything. um, we spoke before about the idea that perhaps 80% of the Irish population are Catholic and the rest are Protestant. And obviously, there is going to be this kind of clash between the two. And this clash sometimes gets nasty and violent. And the next thing you know is that lots of people lose their lives in the process. Again, this is also reflected in the short stories that we're doing. This is all about Dublin and its history and the fact that it was modern at one point, but for political reasons, this modernity um, didn't kind of blossom and didn't go far and wide. So the collection of short stories that we call Dubliners is named after those who inhabited. That's true. There is an intimacy in using first names like Evelyn and Grace. They give you this sense of immediacy and this sense of familiarity. There is, of course, interest in the family because this is a closed-knit society, very regional and very village-like, where family means a lot. Again, if we talk about an encounter and two gallants, we're talking about sociability, we're talking about friendship. And of course, we have, religion-relevant ideas and themes. Again, Joyce, and this is, by the way, typical of the short story genre, is or has the tendency to anatomize his city. Anatomize means conduct some kind of anatomy. Anatomy means when you dissect something, when you break something down to its basic components. He could do that, and the short story genre allows him to do just that. So he is anatomizing Dublin rather than generalizing and speaking in broad terms. So the stories form a sequence, and they are most effective when read in this way. Remember when we said that he divides, he wrote to one of his, to the publisher saying that the arrangement is designed, the arrange is meant to deliver messages, and I am moving from whatever is, children-like to whatever is mature. And so it's like having a human being who grows up as we proceed, moving through the different stages that human beings move through. You start with childhood, and then you move to adolescence, and then maturity, and then public life. And this is the arrangement that he has in mind. Again, we spoke about the idea that it's the city that he is interested in. Spoke about the idea that he left the city for years and he never came back. Again, but it has such a hold on his imagination. And then we're starting the sisters, and the sisters corresponds to the stage that he calls childhood. So those who have read the sisters, who read the sisters? None? Me, okay, right. Somebody's saying, Doctor, can you accept me? I don't think I need to accept anybody because it's open by default, right? Her name is Jana Ayman. Jana, are you there? She wants me to accept her, and I don't know how, because the room is open by default. I don't put any restrictions. Dana, is she Dana? No, not Dana. Her name is. Where is she? Jana Ayman. Jana, if you're there, say something. Let me check. Perhaps she's putting a request. No, I don't see any requests. Okay, anyway, let's go back to the short story. The first short story that we're doing is the sisters, and like I said, the sisters corresponds to the stage that Jim Joyce calls childhood. So can you give us a summary of the short story? Yeah. Sorry, I forgot your name. Somebody said that she read the short story.
I am Razan.
Razan. I'm sorry, Razan, my friend. Okay, Razan. Go ahead, Razan.
The story is about a young kid who is shocked by the news that his close friend, the old priest, is dead.
Mm-hmm.
And when he knew about his this shocking news,
Mm-hmm.
he heard that some people around him started to give him some negative comments that you are still a kid, don't you shouldn't create a friendship with this man. And he didn't get the point of what they are saying.
Mm-hmm.
And when he uh, after that he had some nightmares about this priest.
Mm-hmm.
And when they went to the funeral,
Yeah.
the sisters of the priest tries to describe the real sadness that caused his death,
Mm.
but still a little bit mysterious.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me about the narrative voice. Is it first or third person narrative?
It's first person.
Okay. So why do you say it's first person? Because we have what?
We have the pronoun I.
Yeah, because we
The
have I and yes,
the boy is talking and
yes.
describing.
Right. Which is good or bad to have first person narrative? This is good or bad? What are some of the the plus aspects, and what are some of the negatives?
The positive aspect that it will make the reader feel that he is connected to the story.
Okay, interesting.
The negative aspect that you will think that the narrator might be subjective.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you are actually at the mercy of the narrator. The narrator
Yes,
gives you what he wants, what he or she wants to give you, and he also can withhold or deny you the right to to know it all. So the narrator may have an agenda, and there is no way that you can get to know whether what he is saying is perhaps truthful or not, whether he is somebody who is in his right mind, who is not twisted, whether he is reliable as a narrator or not. So those are all issues that you normally have with first person narrative and first person narrator. They do more harm than good in most of the cases because you are normally uh, um, not given access to the other characters and how they think. It's only through the lens of the first person narrator that you can see the other characters. Okay, and this is happening in the short story. So the short story is narrated by a boy, right?
yes.
So it's a boy, not an adult. Does this, would that make any difference, everyone? If you get to know that the narrator is a boy, not an adult, if you get to know that the narrator is male, not female, would that count? Would that make any difference? Let's focus on the idea of having a boy rather than an adult.
Yes,
Yeah, go ahead.
because the innocence of the boys affect how they see the world. That's
Yeah.
why. So delivering the method they use when they deliver their ideas is very different when we compare between boys and adults.
And also that they don't have this, their worldview is not developed, is not fully developed.
Yes.
They are not mature. They normally think of things in a way that is not very realistic. They are very innocent and they deal with stuff at its base value, right? They don't have the sophistication of adults, people who have gone through life and uh, they know it in and out. It can be negative and it can also be positive because you normally with kids you don't have this idea of dishonesty. You don't have this idea of cheating or saying or lying or saying things that are not true. But on the negative side of things, you would feel that you are you're receiving information from an unreliable source, given the lack of experience, given the lack of exposure to life as it is lived rather than as it should be lived. Okay, sorry. So the two sisters of the title is a reference to whom in the short story? Who are those two sisters? Hello, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Eliza and Nanny.
And who are they?
They are the sisters of the priest.
Of the dead priest. Okay. So how important are they? Yeah, given the fact that they are in the title, it means that they have something to contribute to the narrative. So how important do you think they are?
I think they are important because they are close to the priest himself.
Yes.
So they may know many
Yeah.
information that the boy cannot know.
Yeah, it's about the revelations when they get to in the wake. That, by the way, what they do at night when somebody is dead, it's not called funeral. Funeral is when you go behind the, what do they call, the carcass or the coffin, and they go to the burial area and stay there and look at how an individual is buried. This is the funeral. What we're having here is a wake. They call it wake, W-A-K-E. And wake is, we have something like that in Islam when you go at night or perhaps the second day or the third day to the deceased house, to the guy who the to the house of the individual or the person, and you say your condolences in person to the family members. This is called a wake, and it's very Irish and it's very Catholic. It doesn't happen in other denominations of Christianity, as far as I know. So in the wake at night, when this boy and obviously his aunt and uncle would go to the wake in order to offer their condolences. Uh, um, they will meet the two sisters, and through the revelations of those two sisters, we get to know more about, we will have insights into the character of the priest. So the priest is more or less like a puzzle. Okay, and through the revelations of the different characters, you get to put the clues of the puzzle together so that you can come up with an understanding of the character of the priest. Again, you would depend on the fact that priests in the popular imagination were, yeah, of course, they were well respected, but people had reservations on their behavior sometimes. So you have this hidden part about the character of the priest that would invite wonder, that would invite questions and stuff. Okay. So the sisters gives a portrait of the relationship between a nameless boy and the priest, Father Flynn. So the priest who died is called Father Flynn, and the boy is nameless. And of course, whenever you have characters who are nameless, you would think of the idea of universal experience. It means that this boy can be any boy, can be a boy here in Saudi Arabia, can be in Ireland. Every boy would have those circumstances happening to him. Again, there is a question mark on normally priests and people of religion, they don't get relieved of their duties as members of the clergy unless and until they do something negative or bad. That also would add or contribute to our understanding of the priest and how, you know, undivided or how divided people are over his character. So the priest who has been relieved of his priestly duties has acted as a mentor for the boy in the clerical duties of a Catholic priest. Again, the relationship is not very clear. What kind of relationship did they have? I mean, the priest and the boy, and why would the boy show that keen interest in the priest and think about him? And we have things said about the priest from the perspective of the boy. You would need to think of that. You would also need to think of how James Joyce, the writer, used to think of you know, the clergy and people of the church. He was obviously not very approving of their hold on the minds and the hearts of people. He says that religion is having such a heavy hold on people's mind, and that would be a reason why people are not as developed and as advanced as he wants them to be. So you would have this backhanded criticism of the church and the people who work in the church. So, so the story starts with the boy contemplating Father Flynn's illness and impending death. Why would a boy, who would ask, why would a boy be interested in a priest going through illness and showing signs of diminishing in death? That I mean, boys normally, as we're going to see in the second story, are more interested in having adventures and going out and enjoying themselves. So again, you would need to ask questions. Again, there is a great deal of symbolism in this short story. And the colors and how they come and how they fade. And again, a lot of things are not said directly, and this is a measure of good art. Good art and good literature is not about directness, it's about implicitness. Things that are said very explicitly are not normally very welcomed by people. People would like it more if you leave them to come up with their own interpretations. Don't force your interpretation or your opinion as a writer on them. Just give them clues, and it's up to them how they interpret those clues. And this is happening in the short story. Nothing is direct, everything is implicit, and it's up to you as a reader to come up with your own conclusions. So again, you would ask yourself, why would the boy be haunted by images of the priest and I mean those dreams of escaping to a mysterious land? Obviously, something was going on and nobody was aware of. So again, like I said, the boy and his uncle and aunt would go to the wake, and then there is going to be talk about the priest by Nanny and her sister Eliza, who happened to be the relatives of the priest. So Eliza and the aunt carry on a conversation that reveals that Father Flynn had apparently suffered a mental breakdown after accidentally breaking a chalice. A chalice is, you know, an equipment that you have in a church. Again, this is the official story. Again, you would need to also connect the dots. There is obviously more to the priest. There is more to Father Flynn than just that. Again, there is a great deal of symbolism through the projections of the different colors, through the projection of the different moods in the story. Again, and this is experimenting with color, and this is a typical 20th century modernist attitude upon the part of authors that belong to that period. And these are examples of this play on words and symbols and all this kind of stuff. Again, you would have attitudes that are also in line with the narrator or the narrator being a boy, and out of line with whatever people deem and consider appropriate. Remember, he is after all a teenager. Like we agreed, he tells his tale in the first person using the I. Again, remember that one of the themes that James Joyce is obsessed with is the theme of paralysis. And paralysis means the inability to move around. And of course, paralysis is levels and degrees. Here we talk about total paralysis, where you are totally unable to move. Again, here we have paralysis on the level of individuals, and it's not physical paralysis that he targets or means here. He means paralysis in how people behave and how they act and react. And through the individual paralysis of individual, he puts those different sets of paralysis together by different individuals and come up with a conclusion that Dublin was paralyzed because its individuals were paralyzed too. So again, we start with the individuals who are unable to make their minds. We start with the institutions that are corrupt, that are stagnant, that are not open to new ideas, and that would create an atmosphere of paralysis. Hence, the conclusion that Dublin itself is paralyzed. Again, do we have those manifestations and signs of paralysis in the sisters? Of course, we have through the character of Flynn, or Father Flynn, who had a number of strokes before he eventually died. So again, he is paralyzed, and even the institution that he represents is even more paralyzed than himself. And we're talking here about the institution of religion and the institution of Catholicism, which had such a hold and control over people, which were so set in old ways, not open to innovation or change, not welcoming or embracing or accepting those who call for change. Again, as we can see, paralysis here would refer to Father Flynn and the different strokes that he had before he died, and paralysis would extend beyond him and would refer to the institution that he represents, which is Catholicism and religion. Again, there is a great deal, like I said, about the priests that are left unexplained, and that would add mystery, and that would even add to the paralysis that we are all feeling. Again, things are said from the perspective of a child, and of course, a child is not normally aware of what happens around him. Again, there is this feeling that we're in the middle of some scandal that nobody talks about. Again, you get to know that Father Flynn was not a very straightforward individual. He has his moments of weakness, and that would explain why at the beginning we said that he was relieved of his priestly duties. Again, we're talking about the minuses of having a boy as the narrator, who is using the I, first person narrative. We're talking about the lack of panoramic vision because he's only a number of years old. He's not very old, and also the fact that he doesn't, lots of things happen and he's not aware of. Not aware of in terms of not seeing or feeling them, or not being aware of the significance and ramifications, if you like. And this is in the end of the first story. So do you have any questions about the first story? A230. Okay. Again, when we talk about the short stories, when we talk about the experimental short stories at the beginning of the 20th century, we talk about the character of the flâneur, and whether this is implementable and applicable to the short stories or not. We do have that. We, like I said, the flâneur is an inhabitant of a city who goes around moving perhaps aimlessly, but observing what happens and commenting on what happens. So this is happening in the short stories that we have. This is all about the city and the concept of the city and what the city meant, and the struggle that you normally have, and the conflict that you have between old values and new values. And normally the city is expected to be about new concepts and new ideas and innovation, while the village would normally bring you back to its values. So you would have this kind of conflict if you live in a city. You don't know whether to stick to your old belief system or to embrace new ideas and new values. And this is obviously the trap that people in the short stories are falling in. This is all about the city definitions. And then, like I said, typical of city novels, you would have the character of the flâneur. As you can see, the flâneur is a stroller or a wanderer who also observes. This is key to the literature of the time, and it appears in different shapes and different guises. Um, Again, you would have the flâneur moving around. Perhaps Dublin would help, because it is true that it would feel like a city, but it has also the intimacy of villages where people know each other and stuff. So nothing is obviously hidden in a city like Dublin because of its close-knit relationships. So the flâneur was particularly susceptible to all the visual and oral stimuli the developing city could offer. He would comment, he would move around and kind of comment on the different aspects and highlight them. Again, the focus would be with cities on the crowd and how the crowd behave in a city. These are all people talking about the city and how important the city is in early in modern literature. So Joyce designed the stories in Dubliners to reflect the city's wide streets as open locations of financial, social exchange, as well as their sometimes intimidating position by individual characters. With the exception of Eveline, the boarding house and the dead, where the dramas are mainly played out in domestically limited situations. The stories are characterized by constant movement across the city, with men and women both enjoying literally exercising a newfound freedom. And this is what we're going to see in the upcoming short story. Okay. So we kept saying that James Joyce is a modernist author. Modernist in the sense that he is innovative, he started new things, and his insights are of a modern author rather than a traditional author. Choosing the short story genre itself is very modernist, makes him modernist, because short story was um, um, is such an empowering tool if you want to dissect, if you would like to have the time and the space to dissect a section of society and break it down to its basic components. So what makes him modernist would be the fact that he chose urban themes and also the fact that he used the short story genre. At the time, the short story was becoming an increasingly popular genre, and it was favored by publishers in the literary marketplace and the reading public. Again, for modern writers, focus on this genre, the short story, I mean, was also a very effective way of signaling static distance from the 19th century novels. Of course, you know that the 19th century novel, and even before, was such a bulky novel where messages would be missed easily. However, the tight focus demanded by a short story made it easier to anatomize a city. So it's in the end it's in the good interest of topics like city topics that authors use the short story genre rather than novels. Where with novels you are unable to uh, kind of shed equal light on all the aspects of life in the novel. While in a short story, you have this tight focus, which would allow you to break down the different aspects of life to their basic components. Again, what makes him modernist would be the idea that he experiments. He is an experimental writer who mixes between realism and symbolism. Again, the fact that he talks about taboo subject matters. The fact that he doesn't have um, this conservative streak to his character. He is open. He discusses all topics and he doesn't shy away from topics that people would deem taboo and not acceptable. Again, you don't have this closure in his short stories. You don't have in normal novels and short stories, you have a happy end. You know where the story is headed. With experimental and modernist writers, you don't have this fine closure. It's an open-ended story, and it's up to you to come up with your own conclusions as what conclusion or what end the story took. So again, we're moving to an encounter, and an encounter is another short story. So an encounter, when I say encounter, what comes to your mind? I mean, look at the word, try to unpack the word. What's an encounter?
When two people come together?
Yes, when two people come together. And encounters have different levels, right? You can have a physical encounter when two people, two individuals come together, they meet. So as simple as meeting somebody, right? On higher levels, you would talk about the meeting of cultures, and that would be a cultural encounter. Cultural encounters when cultures come together and people of those two different cultures start to read each other, to try to understand each other, to try to accommodate and respect and honor each other. This is also another level of encounters that we call cultural encounters. So it's as simple as people meeting, coming together. So people meeting and coming together, is that good or bad news? What do you think?
It can be both. It can be a good thing and it could also cause problems.
Yes, okay. So what do you think? I mean, I'll give you, so you have, remember when you spoke about conservative people, people who keep to themselves, people who are so set in their old ways, they don't want to change. Would they be open to encounters, which on one level or another, meeting other people, and when you meet other people, you meet ideas, different perspectives, different attitudes. Would people who are conservative be embracing encounters? Would they be acceptable of encounter? Would they welcome the opportunity to meet other people?
No, I think they would object to anything like that.
Yes. Because of the fear of meeting people with different ideas, right? They don't want to change their ideas for the most part, right? Conservative people are, for the most part, um, you know, if we talk about institutions in society, we would talk about the institution of religion, right? Institutions of morality, and they have their own beliefs, and they don't normally want to change. right? They have their own schools, they do stuff over and over again, over years and years, and they never change. So for them, any prospect of encounter would be bad news, right? So if you're not allowing encountering, if you're not allowing people to meet other people, let's assume that you are a religious institution and you have schools under your supervision. So you're very conservative, you don't accept new ideas. So what do you think? Let's talk about the reaction of people under you. I mean, whether those people are worshippers who go to your church every day or every week, or people who are or students or children who study in your schools. Wouldn't you have people who would like to change, who would like to receive new ideas, to have a smell of fresh air, if you like?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So to have somebody who studies in your school, in your old system, to have him or her start of thinking outside the box that you're making, or the prison that you're making for him, would be obviously a problem. And these are all ideas that I would like you to need to think of when you do an encounter. So what do you think? I would like you to look at the picture. What can you make of this picture? Look at the boys. Are they all happy? I mean, obviously you have three and you have somebody on the other side. Let's focus on the three that we have behind each other. Can you see them? So what kind of reaction do they have?
Shocked.
Yeah, okay, probably.
Weirded out by the behavior of the other guy, maybe.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Okay, so the story involves a boy, the narrator again, and his friend Mahoney taking a day off from school and going to the shore to seek adventure in their otherwise dull lives. Seek adventure, perhaps from their otherwise. Okay, fine. So it's a boy again. So it seems that there is this focus on the young or the old generation. What do you think? When I have a boy narrating a story for the second time, does it mean that the focus is on the old or the young generation? What do you think?
The young generation.
Young generation, definitely, right? So does it mean that perhaps James Joyce is fed up with the old generation and he believes that you cannot change them, so you need to start with the young generation? Perhaps he's doing that, right? Okay. So what we have here, we have a regimented kind of life, a school. You have a school. And this school, of course, by definition, schools are very regimented, very disciplined. You don't play, normally do whatever you like in a school, right? There is a system and you have to respect and honor the system. Isn't that stifling and kind of restricting and limiting for some? Did you used to like your school? I'm asking you.
Yes, doctor?
Yeah, everyone, did you used to like your schools? I mean, when you go to school every morning, was it a good or a bad experience? I mean, you are normally excited about going to school every day?
To see my friends.
What?
To see my friends, yes.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, who else? Who perhaps let's talk about those who didn't find the school experience very exciting and interesting. Do we have? Yeah.
Me.
What's your name?
I'm Eugene.
Rosine, hi. So why? Why was that?
It actually was a bad experience because the time of going to school was too early. Like we used to wake up at 6 a.m. and it's so early, and I didn't like the teachers so much. I mean, some of them are just love making rules, and I don't know, like I don't know how to explain actually, but it was a really good experience. I mean, I love university much way better because we are free to do a lot of things instead of being locked for maybe about 6 hours.
So again,
So
very
yeah.
interesting what you're I mean the points that you're raising, Alujane. The idea that you're locked in a school, of course. The idea
Yeah, because
that there are
like
rules and regulations that you didn't make, but you are supposed to follow blindly without any questions asked, right?
yeah, there are many rules like and they are not sensible or
Yes.
just
I mean, I said that you were not part of them. You didn't they didn't ask you whether this is implementable, this is a good rule that we should follow or not. You're not involved in on those rules. Again, you would add to that in some schools the syllabus and whatever you're studying is not highly engaging and is not very lifelike. It doesn't prepare you for the outside world, right?
yeah.
Okay, so this is what we're having as a matter of fact in this short story. We have the narrator and his friend who belong to one of those Irish Catholic schools. And there is, of course, if it's a Catholic or a religious school, the focus would be on whatever is classical, whatever is religious. And obviously, these are not very interesting topics and areas of interest for children. They would welcome the opportunity to go out. That's why whenever they declare or announce that there is a trip, everybody signed up. A trip outside the school, of course, right? So this is what we're having. But you would add this, critical touch to it. The fact that Jim Joyce is critical of the school system and also of the religious institutions that stand behind them. Okay, so again, school is about routine. You go outside, you seek adventure, you want something new, you don't want something to get repeated every day. This is what we're having. We're having the boy and his friend deciding not to go to school on one of the days and go travel or go to the seaside seeking adventure. See, obviously they are enjoying themselves, right? So the episode revolves around the trip and the people that they see. Of course, inside the school, you see the same people, the same faces all over again. So when you go out, you meet new people. And this is obviously good, right? So there are enormous social events that the boys witness, and the narrator, in an act of maturity, seems to at least be able to notice the situations. So going out is about moving around, talking to people, getting experience, which is obviously different from staying at school, listening to theory and dry pieces of knowledge all the time. Again, when they go out, of course, they go out and they mix with people, and like I told you, the Irish society at the time was highly divided along sectarian lines. The fact that you have the Catholic majority and you have the Anglican minority. Again, we have this sense in the short story that when they went on this kind of trip and they mixed with people, people thought that they are Protestant rather than Catholic. And that would tell you that the society at the time was kind of divided along sectarian and religious lines, which is obviously bad news. Again, you can't ask to walk out school and move or go on trips and in order to seek adventure, and you can guarantee that all that you're going to see is going to be good. And this is happening to the two boys. They would meet an old man who is going to act in weird ways, and eventually they would realize that he is a pervert and that he is a bad individual. Again, you would have this kind of comparison between generations. The boys would represent innocence and purity and love of life, while the old man would represent the old generation with its corruption and perversion and all these kinds of things. So the tale depicts many aspects of Dublin society at the time, talking about antagonism, hatred, between Catholics and Protestants, violence along sectarian lines between Catholics and Protestants, poverty, the old generation, and the fact that this old generation is betraying the young generation in more than one way, and of course the schooling of boys and teaching them stuff that they wouldn't need in practical life, teaching them about things that are not in touch with reality. Again, when speak about the story, we see that there is obviously a gap between what they study at school, what is offered them in terms of curriculum and syllabus, and what they want and what they feel outside. So what is inside is all about grammar and Latin and classics, while what they want is magazines and tales of the Wild West, all about adventure. So you would have this conflict between low and high culture. Whatever they receive at school is high culture, but they desire low culture, if the word low is the right word. Again, because low culture is very lively, this is the real life stuff. Again, the narrator, as you can see, is a boy or is a child, and it's also first-person narrated. Again, in a broader term, or in broader terms, the narrator displays the frustration that we normally receive as young generation when you want to be free from the dominant world of adults. So the narrator displays the frustrated quest for freedom from the dominant world of adults. Again, it's all about escaping, and escaping what? Escaping the mundane kind of life that they have at school and that they have in Dublin. They want to fly away from the here and the now. Okay? So what do you think of this short story? If you're going to compare the two short stories that we have taken so far, which of them is more appealing to you? The
Maybe the second one.
The second. Yeah, and what are your reasons here? Keep forgetting
Because
today. I'm sorry, Wallah.
Hasan, it's okay.
What's your name, Manish?
Razan,
Razan. Yeah, Wallah, my friend. I'm so sorry, Wallah.
it's okay.
Go on.
Maybe this story is close to our hearts as students because we had the experience of conflicts in schools.
Mm.
To be honest, even for me as a lady who was a bookworm who likes school from very childhood and this stuff, you will find conflicts.
You would love to go out and refresh yourself and meet with people, encounter new adventures, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we all have that in us, right? Yeah.
Yes, actually, even if you don't need to go out, even if you don't need to go out, the biggest conflict is the conflict of the values inside schools.
Yeah.
They give you the rules, but then you notice that the teachers or the one who put the rules, they are not following it at all.
Yeah, it has a measure of hypocrisy to it.
Yes.
You're
yes.
asking me to do something that you yourself doesn't do or is not doing, right? Or you're keeping it to the exclusively to some people. You ask, I mean, certain people to implement those rules, but you would go very easy on other people not
Yes.
implementing.
Yes. This going very easy on others was the childhood nightmare.
Yes. I would like to listen to what other people have to say about that. Which of the two stories is more appealing and why? Mm. Okay.
For me,
Yeah,
also
yeah,
the
go
second
ahead.
story.
Go ahead.
For me, also the second story, and the same reason as Razan,
Mm.
because I always I always attack the school system
Mm.
because of it has too many rules and unnecessary rules. Actually, like
Mm.
it gives me the feeling like people there just like putting and adding rules, even if they are unnecessary. So, like, you don't have to wear this color. You don't have, you you must not wear this color or bring your favorite food. Like, I don't know. There are too many rules and they are unnecessary, and they don't give us a space to enjoy our learning journey. They're like we stuck there for 12 years and 6 hours daily. Expect the weekend, of course. So I didn't like the school system, and even the teachers, like the way they teach, and nothing fun at all.
Mm.
So yeah,
So what kind of
that's my.
school did you go to, if I may?
It was public,
Yeah, public school.
so like yeah, public.
Um, Again, it's yani, I would give them the benefit of the doubt. It's not all negative, if you ask me. I mean, the idea of controlling crowds, the idea of managing attitudes and accommodating them is a very difficult task. Believe me, I used to work in schools at one point in my life, and it's not easy at all. I mean, even when you offer or give room for intimacy and familiarity with your students, sometimes they take advantage of your kindness. I'm not saying that all of them, but if two or three decide to take advantage of your kindness, the class will be hell. So in this case, you would have to maintain control and discipline, which of course other people wouldn't like, right? So it depends very much on how you apply and implement the rules. Sometimes you're being lax with these rules because you think you should be lax, and you should relax those rules, and sometimes you have to implement them because of this idea of some taking advantage of them not being implemented. Interesting thoughts. I think I have somebody made like a kind of what do they call it? Like an audio, uh, uh, an episode on that. Then if I look for it, I mean, it's things that are said from the perspective of a student, and he is saying stuff that you guys are saying that having to wake up very early in the morning to go to school, having to stay very late, having to do homework that is perhaps stupid at sometimes, and stuff like that. I look, I mean, the audio up, and perhaps I can share it with you. Okay, I'm not going to do the other. What do we still have? We have done an encounter. We also have done two sisters, and of course talk about Dubliners itself, and talk about James Joyce. So next time when we meet, we will take up Evelyn Clay and A Painful Case, and the time after we can have the dead. And the dead obviously would wrap up the whole thing. Okay, so on this note and with this item, we come to the end of this lovely encounter. And inshallah, I'll see you next week. Do you have any questions before we leave?
Yes, doctor.
Yeah, go ahead.
Doctor, in
Thank
modern
you, Doc.
count, it's coming. It's include the final exam.
What is included and what is not? Shah? Are you Shah?
Yes.
I think Dr. Mohsen, the coordinator, shared something with you. Did you check the LMS? And I think he sent an email, but because it was, it was MTA time, you didn't notice or something. Go and check your emails. He sent something about the final exam. Go, and I'm sure he shared that on the LMS.
Okay. Thank you, doctor.
Welcome.
Have a nice day.
You too. Anybody else before we call it a night?
No, doctor, thank you.
You're welcome. Bye. Yalla. Assalamu alaikum, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.